Hi everybody, this is John Meadows with Dave Tate. Oh, I got that wrong. So today we're going to talk about the technique aspects on the bench press to be able to increase your bench press. Okay, the first thing, and again, this is not in any order. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, because it's just the first thing on the dry erase board, is to keep your back tight. So I want to talk about a couple things technique oriented. When you go online now, you're going to find technical cues left and right, all over the place, right? And it's always been a popular thing. This is not a new thing. It's always been a popular thing for upcoming coaches to be able to look and see what, coaches before them have said, and then say the complete opposite of that to be able to garner attention or whatever. And I understand what they're doing it for. But then when you go and you look at what they do, after you get through 5 minutes of their description, what they're actually having people do is exactly the same thing. So in other words, you can have some people that are saying to, pull the shoulder blades in, other people say, no, push the shoulder blades out. But if you look at both of them when they're actually done trying to define whatever they're trying to define, it's keeping the upper back tight. So keeping the back tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to avoid all those cues that are one direction or the other direction. And they do matter. They do matter because you can be working with somebody and you have to tell them a certain thing to make them do what you want them to do. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what everybody else should do, because when you're working with somebody, you want to find what specifically works for them. That doesn't transfer very well on YouTube or other places because they're completely different people. They need different cueing. But the objective, keeping the back tight, is the same. So I've had videos where I've shown you need to have the shoulder blades together, down. You need to bring the shoulder blades as close to the, the hip as you possibly can, so everything's just complete tight, stable base. Which, is it stable? It depends. It can be for some people it may not be. I'm not going to do that. All right, because I'm going to explain what you should really be trying to do, because that's an extreme that people will do if they're competing and so forth. Most people watching this are not going to compete, but most people have to keep that bar stable. So you don't want to bench and have that bar out and moving around and not being tight. When this lats are tight, engaged, like flexed, then that bar's not going to move. So if it's a high school kid or a very beginner, I will have that bar as a broomstick, and all I do is make them not be able to move when they're holding it. I don't want it to move any direction that I try to push it in. And keep in mind when I'm doing that, I am not telling them shoulder blades together, shoulder blades down, do this, do this, do this. I'm just telling them, don't let me move the bar. That is going to activate and get the lats in the back tight. So John, go ahead and lay down. So to better illustrate, take it out to where your back's not tight. So if he takes that, keep in mind, I'm not telling him anything to do. And see how loose that is. Now don't let me do whatever you got to do so I can't move that bar. Okay, so see there, now I can't move, get a little tighter. Okay, now I can't move the bar, right? Because he's tightened his lats. That's what I'm telling you. Find a way to where you can not have this bar have to move them. Now if I force it, yes, it's going to move. But if it was a broomstick, it would be easier to go with. So if that's tight, and if it's not tight, you want this position here to be tight from the time you take it out. Go ahead and rack it. So regardless if somebody's telling you shoulder blades in, down, lats tight, depressed shoulders, or a million other things, all they want, the end goal is to be tight. There, that's going to help to stabilize the shoulder. It's going to help to displace the load. It's going to help you to be able to press the bar in a better pattern and a safer pattern. So just get your upper back tight.
I'm glad Dave mentioned that one, because what I see a lot of people doing is cramming their shoulders down so hard that actually hurts my lower back. It actually doesn't feel good. It actually sucks. But
it has its place. Like if you're a competitive lifter and you're training for 1 rep maxes and stuff like that, it has its place.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have its place for most people that are just training.
Yeah, cool.
Number 2, don't move your feet, right? So again, if you're looking around at different videos on how to bench, you're going to see a lot of different cues. You know, drive your feet into the floor, turn your feet out, push this way, push this way, push this way. Just don't move your feet, right? So if you watch people, and the cool thing about the internet now, you can watch a host of different people that are bench pressing. Watch how many people move their feet around. So no matter where they go, if they're flat or if they're out or if they're tucked back, don't let your foot move, right? So if it's tucked back, more than likely your heel may not be on the floor. Well, you don't want your heel to go from here to here to here to here to here to here on every rep or during the rep. If it's here, it stays there, right? If it's flat on the floor, it stays flat on the floor. It doesn't shuffle around and the feet certainly doesn't move. If you just focus on keeping your feet flat and even, you know, wherever it is, that is going to help your bench press tremendously, because to keep your feet flat, you're going to have to apply force flat, right? Which is going to tighten the rest of the body up. So don't get lost in all the powerlifting intricacy details of all these verbal cues, when basically if you look at world records and competitive lifters, you're going to see, and it's going to be confusing. This is why people get confused, is people are going to tell them one thing and they're going to say, well, this world record, they have their feet tucked. This world record, their heel is right under their knee. This world record, their heel is way in front of their knee. Yeah, true. But none of their feet isn't moving from the time that they do the whole set. It doesn't move. It stays stable. So just like the upper back, it stays stable. The feet stay stable. Look at your own videos when you're benching and tell me both of those are stable, because I'll tell you what, I'll be really impressed if they are. And if they're not, that's low-hanging fruit to be able to help your bench go up. Next, your grip. Couple things here. Yes, you need an even grip. We get that. You don't see that screwed up very often on the bench press. When we talk about the squat, I'm going to talk about that in a little more detail. On the bench press, you don't see that a lot. What I do see is the grip not being tight. Keep in mind, there's a theme going on here: back tight, feet tight, hands tight. You basically want your whole body tight. So you want to squeeze the bar. How hard do you want to squeeze the bar? Well, how hard you grip. You know, so as hard as you can. So yes, you want to squeeze the bar. You don't want your hands to open, you know, as you're pressing. You know, I'm not going to talk about suicide thumb. I'm not going to talk about just the tightest grip that you can have. But if you're doing a set of 6 or 8, you can't squeeze the out of the bar and expect that you're going to be able to hold it for 30 seconds. Not at a maximum grip. You can't do a maximum grip test for that long. So you have to gauge how hard it's going to be. But I will tell you from my experience, nobody's even close to even gripping it as hard as they should, because nobody thinks about it. So these are the technical things that you need to think about. So grip, back, feet, kind of all plays into the same thing. Okay, the question was, does it matter where the grip is on the bar? Yes, but that goes past how I could do this video. So I'm just assuming you're going to use your regular bench grip. So I'm trying to think of a real easy way. If your elbows are going way lower than the bench pad, move your grip out. Okay, I'm talking at the bottom of the bench. If your elbows are way deep, lower than the bench pad, you probably need to move your grip out. I'm going to make this as simple as I possibly can. So just go off of that and use that as a gauge. Number 4. Now this is going to be a little bit of a verbal cue, which I already said I wasn't going to do, but there are a couple that I am going to put in here. When you press, you want to think about trying to push your body away from the bar. It's going to take a while for you to really get what I'm talking about, but when you do, you're going to really get it. So don't get frustrated if you're not understanding it's not coming. It will come, and then when it does come, your bench is going to go way up, because when you're just trying to, I call it muscle. When you're just trying to muscle things from here to here, that's not the same as if you're trying to push from there to there, because you're able to take this tension through your hands, through your back, through your feet, and utilize it to be able to move the weight. All right. If that's not connecting that tension, then it's not going to really transfer. So if you think about that, and if you think about if you were to stand against a wall, if I'm going to have my back against a wall and I want to push John away from me with my back against the wall, and I didn't put any pressure into the wall and just pushed him, he's only going to go so far. Now, if I take and put more force into the wall and push him, he's going to go a lot further because I have the wall to be able to generate that force from. That's what I'm talking about. That's the mental connection that we need to try to involve or get pulled into this. So think about that with all the pressing movements that I'm talking about. You know, even the ones from yesterday where we were talking about the close grips and the things, the movements to do. It's all the same concept that has to connect to be able to understand. Off camera, John was just saying that was something that he never really got a connection with, never really understood. And I said he does, but he doesn't know it, because when he does it wrong, that's when his shoulders hurt, because that's when you start doing things like that. You know, and that if you've been around the block a few times and you have the shoulder or elbow pain, a lot of that starts to happen when you're not doing this and when you're doing that. So that's an indicator if you've been around for a while.
Hello everybody, my name is Alexander Meadows, and today I'm going to be doing the brain twister.
Number 5. This one is something, because I always learn. I've been doing this forever, and I always learn. J.M. Blakely was out helping one of our athletes bench last year sometime, and they were talking about leg drive, and he was basically saying leg drive, there's no such thing as leg drive. And I didn't agree with him at first, but after hearing him explain things, I get what he's saying. So it's one of those things where somebody can say one thing, but in the end, everybody's kind of saying the same thing that's been around for a while. It's just how they describe it is a little bit different. And it's probably going to take more. It's going to take longer, maybe in another decade or so before it all starts to come together. Because when I was learning training 20, 30 years ago, the internet really wasn't a thing. So the internet is kind of new. So a lot of the things that people were learning in gyms 20, 30 years ago were disconnected from things that other people were teaching in other gyms. Now that people are becoming more together and we're seeing, oh, that's how they say it, this is how they say it, but we're saying the same thing, those connections are starting to come together. So I do think, and I'm getting a little bit off topic, I do think that's going to help people get way stronger over the next decade, because a lot of those mixed messages are going to start to come together because they are saying the same things. And then when it comes together for the people on the other end, the YouTube subscribers, listeners, whatever you want to call them, then it's going to become less confusing because the messaging is really kind of the same if you've been around. Anyhow, one thing that he was telling them was tighten the skin on your back. So if you're laying on the bench and you're getting set up, before you take the bar out, use your legs and just tighten. You see how the skin moves? Like that? All right, so tighten that skin on your upper back when you're on that bench. So you're underneath there, use your feet, tighten that skin, right? That is going to be what pulls the feet, the hands, and the back all together to be able to make all these tips work as one. So you want to be able to stretch the skin. All right, guys, make sure to check back tomorrow for the 5 exercises to make your squat get better, stronger. Yeah, for a better squat here.